people that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a midweek update. So this midweek in Base Hit, because we have a big update coming out, and we wanted to talk through some of these things because there's some big changes happening, and we're really excited about it. It's a big advancement in a lot of the stuff that we wanted to do, and it's just the start of a snowball. So we thought we'd take some time and let primarily Clone run through it, and I am going to play the dumb guy and ask questions because I even still have some. So Clone, big update. Are you excited? It's coming tomorrow.
I am excited. I'm getting more and more excited.
Yeah.
And
we started realizing how big it was today, and I was like, maybe we should do a video and talk this through.
That's exactly right. So we've been working on, and we've hinted at some of it throughout this, that we're doing free agency changes, and it's all part of, we've been working on big UI update, which I'm just going to go ahead and say. But as part of that, it's, as we go through, we're fixing elements of the game that we've wanted to touch, and there's some things in free agency specifically that we've wanted to do to kind of simplify it for people, maybe make it more like people are used to in fantasy sports. Like there's just old restrictions that we've all gotten used to that we knew that we could make better, and we finally got around to hacking at them. And then at some point, this week, it was the realization of like, oh, holy cow, this stuff's going to be pretty big. And there's stuff for like leagues to talk about with each other, to talk about what they want to use. So,
and some of the restrictions is the right word. Limitations is another one. And some of the limitations, and so everybody knows the UI stuff is not coming out tomorrow for the full site, but because we want to really beat it up and test it in a couple of leagues. But you're going to love that when it comes out. But as part of that, we were working on all things free agency, but some of them started to spider out, we noticed, because some of the restrictions that we had on free agency also affect trades and some of the roster positions and total roster positions, things like that. So it was like, okay, we're doing all good things that I think are going to enhance free agency without a doubt, not even close. It's also going to help with trades, so we can talk about some of that. I think it's going to give people a lot more freedom to start throwing out trade offers, which is awesome. And then it's going to give people more flexibility on roster moves that they didn't have before, because they were limited on number of hitters, pitchers, things that just didn't need to be there. So I don't know where you want to start, but
well, the biggest change that will probably hit people is that, up until now, we've had it that you could only bid or set up trades that fit in your salary cap. So if you had 10 million in salary cap space, you could bid 5 million on two guys, and that's it. And you had to wait until they processed. And we're breaking through that.
Process, right?
If they process, yes. Right. And then you would have to go do a new round of things. So that's the biggest one, is we're breaking through that, right? So if you've got 10 million, you can put in a bid for a 9 million guy, an 8 million guy, 7 million guy, and have them all out there at once. Get all your bids out there. So it's going to be important for people to understand, like, just because you have the bid out there doesn't mean it's going to go through. I mean, I think people already understand that, but knowing the process.
You still have your salary cap, is what you're saying.
Still have your salary cap.
You still aren't going to exceed your hard cap, but it's going to, and I'm sorry for jumping in on you, but it is going to allow you to put multiple bids out there. So if you don't get the highest salary one, because they do process in order of salary on down, you still have a chance at getting somebody else. And in competitive free agent leagues, that's a death blow when you can only bid on one guy when you need 6, and you're just going to have to deal with the scraps after the first round of free agency process. It's one of the more annoying things where leagues can be won and lost in free agency like that. And so you don't have to be as tactical, just, trying to go for quantity or quality. You can go for both, but just know, if you don't get that $9 million guy, the $8 million guy is going to process next, $7 million guy on down. So you still have to think it through, and maybe there's some strategy there as well.
That's a big important part of it, is knowing that bids are as long as so each individual bid is going to be validated by itself. It just needs to be valid by itself, and then you can have as many as you want. But the way that it goes process wise is yet through the league, it goes down the highest bid that's out there, checks who wins it, processes that, goes to the next thing. But if you've got a bunch of bids out there, let's say you have 10 million out there, you have a 9, 8, 7 million bid out there, and you sign the 9 million guy, then it'll just cancel your others that wouldn't be valid anymore.
Yeah.
And it's or in other people, if other people had a bid on them, it would cancel them, and then kind of cascades.
Let me ask you a question. I know the answer to this, but just so you can explain it to the people. What if you combine that with conditional cuts? And the people you're cutting for the $9 million guy might not be the same as the ones you're cutting for the $4 million guy that's your backup. And so what happens if you don't get that $9 million guy to that bid in total and to those conditional cuts?
So that's another change, is that you can include the same player in multiple transactions, which you couldn't do before. So that's free agent bids, conditionals, and trades even. So if you know that there's a guy that you want to cut, you can have him be the guy that's getting cut for all three of your bids out there, whatever. So you don't have to do a different guy each time. If you have, obviously, if you're saying like I'm going to trade player X, then you have him signed up to be cut in a different move. If he gets cut, then anything else that is related to him is going to get canceled. So you're still going to have to plan it.
Yeah, keep that in mind. So in that example, and I'm kind of taking extremes, but say you have $10 million in cap space and you have two $4 million. This would never happen, obviously, but two $4 million bids out there with the same person as the conditional cut. You can't get them both because one of those is going to get invalidated because of the person. So if you really do want both those bids to go through, you do have to have different conditional cuts. It's not going to work like that necessarily, but I just wanted to take it to an extreme to make it clear. But what you just touched on, I just want to hit real quick because I hope people picked up on it, is this also gives you the ability to take the same player that previously the only option you had is to put them on your trade block. Now you can go out and offer them to all 23 other teams if you want to.
Don't do that.
But just know the first person that clicks accept, it cancels the other 22 trades. But it does give you the option now, especially in those lower medium activity leagues that we're all in, that where you want to just kind of float offers to people you're not talking to on a regular basis. You don't have a live trade thread or something, and you get to put it out to 3 different teams to get that shortstop you want or whatever it is. And you don't have to wait for one to get back to you for the other to, and that I think is, for me personally, that's the biggest change of them all, because I think it really changes the dynamic of what you can get done in those leagues.
Yeah. I mean, just generally, like we've just changed the way, right? It used to be that all the validation was done up front. You couldn't put something in if there was no way it could go through. And then at some point we realized like it didn't have to be that way anymore. We could be like fantasy sports in terms of you can put out a whole bunch of things that you'd like to do, leave it up to you to figure out the logistics of it, and we're going to validate it when it comes up and have it related. But there's no reason to have those blocks anymore that we used to have.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that change. All right, what else you got for us?
I mean, we're already hitting like a ton of them. The other one in there that maybe is sneaky is that we had the roster limits. Like you had to have the roster minimums of 25. So you always had to have 14 pitchers and 14 position players, 11 pitchers.
Yeah.
And you would get blocked trying to do transactions that would mess that up.
One of the more annoying things when you have everything else in order and you can't do it because you don't have a pitcher in AAA to move up or whatever it is.
Yeah. When we talked about like sometimes specifically signing like total jerks just to be able to meet those roster minimums. So we're not going to have that anymore. So now, you can put these things through, and if there's any transaction that you have out there that'll take you below the minimum, you'll automatically sign a scrub.
Yeah.
Which, we already had that for trades, I believe, but we didn't have that for free agency and reassign and stuff. So it just made sense to do that.
Trades were the only place that auto-generated the scrub, and that didn't really make sense as a restriction. But keep in mind, everyone, that also means you have the power to do that. So if you're messing around with your roster and you accidentally put two position players in there and you only meant to do a position and a pitcher or whatever it is, it will auto sign a scrub. So you just got to make sure that with this newfound freedom, you don't go cutting somebody you don't want to cut. Obviously, that goes without saying. Anyways, I'm just making the point that you can cut below the, like you could cut down to 12 position players and it'll auto sign two scrubs. And I think that's a great, because now you can trade a position player for a scrub where you couldn't do that before in certain situations. So, and that's why it happened with trades, is because that used to be one of the big negating factor to trades back in the day.
Yep, that's true. It's true.
So,
so I think, we're hitting a lot. I think everybody's going to see like immediately once they start trying it out. It's big, but we had talked about, and this only came up today, but we've been working on changing the way that the free agent timing goes, adding options for that. And,
this might be my favorite.
That's going to be included in there. So there's two different elements to that. It's two new. So all those changes we just talked about are going everywhere. It's more flexible. It works with our system. They're going everywhere. It's going to be an adjustment for people, but you're going to like it.
Yep.
You're just going to like it. You're going to have to get used to, like you're saying, you're going to have to get used to playing it out for yourself. The other two things we're talking about are league options that people need to discuss. One of them is being able to decide the timing of free agents processing in your league. So if you're all probably used to the idea that, so it's kind of random right now, that if you put in a bid on a player, it kind of starts the clock, and that player is going to sign anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. If you're in an 8-a-day league, anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. I get confused about the different sim rates. But you can't tell, so then it can be kind of difficult to do your planning, whatever else. That option is still going to be out there if people like it. I think it was originally put there to keep people from being able to kind of pounce at the last minute. Snipe and know exactly when, but it also can be pretty complicated for people. So the two other options are not at all related to when the bid comes in. And this is more, again, like fantasy football, fantasy sports related. Having a league set the time every day that free agents are going to process. We've got it noon default. I'm going to go ahead and be on team noon for everybody. I want everybody to show up the same day, same time every day and check their free agents. But
I mean, that is the most normal fantasy football thing, is, noon every day, the waiver wire transactions hit. And so I do think it will be a popular option. Plus it gives, like you always say, it gives people something to know is happening every day. Come check in, see if the free agency.
And you don't have to, I mean, like, we've all gotten used to the idea of, like, if you really care about what's going on in free agency, you got to check it every sim to see who showed up, to see where your bids are, to see if other people put bids in and everything else. If you're doing this option that they're going to happen at noon, you can put in your bids before you go to bed and not thinking about them. You can, especially if you're in a league, I mean, it's all related. If you're in a league with blind bidding, you don't need to even wonder about what other people are doing. You put in your bids, you find out noon the next day, or you can wait until the last minute if you want, and it's not going to hurt you. Like in the signing time, if you put in all your bids at 11:58, you could still have these guys sign at noon. We've been testing that out in a couple of the leagues, and I immediately love it, and that's the way to go.
But then we do have,
it's another option. Yep. We built in like a grace period there to make sure that people aren't playing it with quick sign and trades. So like if it's noon, if your league signs guys at noon and somebody gets dropped at 6 a.m., they're not going to sign. I think it's 12 hours or halfway through. They're not going to
Oh
sign until
yeah,
the next day to
yeah,
make
yeah,
sure that everybody gets a fair shot at them.
yeah.
Um, so we had that in mind, but I do like that pattern. And then the other option for the timing is pretty similar, but it's doing it by this every. I
Number
had a
of
hard time writing this up. Every X Sims, with X being the frequency of your league. So if it's an 8 a day, you could do it that players sign every 8 days, or you could even do it players sign every 4 days if you really
yeah, it's
want to have.
every 4 sims, 8 sims.
Yep.
Is there
So
another
if you
option?
really want to have signings happen fast in your league, you can do it. Um, but then it would still be constant. So like, and that's not based on when you put the bid in. It's like 4-1, 4-5, 4-9, whatever. It's specific days that people are going to sign the same thing. So it gives you something to plan around.
I think that
Which
might be an option like 2-a-day leagues like. Um, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, we could talk about it at the end. I mean, I'm gonna push any league that I'm in. I'm gonna push my noon sign thing. But I'm militant about
You always
whatever.
got your favorite option.
I do
Don't
have
don't
my
try and
favorite
push it
option.
on them. Let the leagues decide. You're
Yep, you're
fine.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I shouldn't even give my favorites. You're right.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, your favorites are probably most people's favorites, so I'm
I
just giving
mean,
you a hard
I'm
time.
I'm totally in support of options,
But
but
but but
give,
that
give
and
my,
that there so there's really three options. There's the pick a time of day. It doesn't have to be noon, but we're just using that because I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's a pretty common one. So pick a time of day. It can be whenever. Pick a certain number of sims, or you can keep it, opaque or random, like
yep,
whatever you want. It's not really random. It's more opaque than anything, but kind of like it is now.
yep, yep.
And
So
so when you
that's
combine that with blind, partially blind, or full visibility uh, bidding, it opens up a lot of options for leagues to build some other rule sets around too, which I think
yeah.
will be cool.
Well, I think that's part of why this is coming out right now is realizing like some of the options for being able to put all your bids out there that when it's random signing, it's a little hard to see how it pans out. But if you know exactly what day free agents are going to be signing, then your ability to line up a whole bunch of different bids and line them up by
Yes,
salary, that's
yes,
all going to work together pretty nicely.
yes.
So
That's the best argument for same time of day. There is for leagues that are really dependent on free agency. It makes it much more competitive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and then we have one more that I'm sneaking in, which is big, but I don't know why I'm sneaking in. But that's the unrestricted free agency, which I think we've maybe hinted at, but the idea
Something
that
we've needed forever.
yeah,
Yeah.
if your league if your league decides to use it, you can set a number of sims like from 8 to 90 or whatever. That if a guy sits in free agency, it's only is during regular season. If a guy has been sitting in free agency for that amount of time, you can instantly sign him instead of having to go through the bid process.
How
So
great is
like,
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everybody, there's nothing worse than signing a guy that nobody wants, and you have to sit there sim after sim and wait for that
yeah,
dumbass to sign on your team when
yeah,
you know he doesn't have any other options. Uh, uh,
yeah.
yeah. So, but to be clear, because I actually don't know the answer to this question, are there restrictions on the floor and the ceiling of how many sims a league can set that for?
Yeah, it was 8 to 90. So
Oh,
it
it really
doesn't
is
it
up to
doesn't
90. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, all
So you
right.
can have it be so you could have it, not kick in until 3 months into the season if you want to give people like quite a long time to sit there. I've told you I have my favorites on other things. I'm not
What's
exactly
your
sure what I think the right one is on this.
Well,
We
90 would be
tried it
too
in the
much,
other.
right? Because you'd get into July and all of a sudden you couldn't have
Yeah.
unrestricted free agency in the home stretch.
Yeah, no, I was thinking 16, 8 or 16, maybe. I don't know. We tried it out in
I think
we tried that
16
one out too.
because
Um,
eight is just one day.
if you're not keeping up,
Well,
yeah.
you know what? We don't need to debate this. All
We
the
don't
leagues
need to
can,
do
and
that.
you know what? That's the beautiful thing about this. Just like this beautiful country of ours, we have 50 independent states that can come up with the best
Yep.
practices
Yep.
in base hit. We have
You got your flag right there. You want to wave the flag? You want to
dozens
wave it?
and dozens of leagues that can
Yep.
find the best practice and tell us what is the best number of sims that unrestricted free agency should have.
You're messing
I've,
up my like finale, which is never mind.
were we gonna sing "God Bless America" together? I'll
Yeah,
do
no,
it.
that was
I'll
good.
do it.
No, because
Oh,
no, when we get the response, I mean this a lot of this stuff is coming out tomorrow. People are gonna be
but they're
people are gonna be
watching this.
seeing
When are you putting this video? Because it might
I'm
be
putting this out
today.
tomorrow. I'm
Oh
putting this
yeah.
out tomorrow morning too.
Wednesday,
Oh yeah, Wednesday,
Wednesday,
the
we're coming up.
18th.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um you're going to see some of it immediately. If you choose either of those league options that we're talking about later, they don't kick in until the next season, but it's going to start happening fast. But the one thing we're going to get hit with, and a bunch of people are going to say like, "There's no good free agents in my league," and then we can go back to the other conversation, which is if there's no good free agents in your league, your salary cap is too high.
Yep.
It's too high. Anyway,
Yep. And any other things that people should be on the lookout for? Did you hit them all?
I think I hit them all. I've got the release notes. I've got a blog post that goes at length into all of this stuff and has some examples. I think I hit them all, but if people have questions, they should definitely hit us up. I'm sure we're going to be talking about it all over the place.
Uh, and we're like I said, we're testing the UI. This all started with some UI stuff. There's going to be 2 secret leagues. I'm not going to say where they are that will be testing that UI, but you might be
Yeah,
able to find them. Who knows?
we do. There is, I should say, because I it's all going to work with the way the site looks now. The new UI is going to make it easier, but there is an added field to the player cards that says when a player is going to sign, so you don't have to guess because I know people are gonna. It's going to be complicated
I'm
for people
glad you
trying to
remembered
figure
that.
out like
Yeah.
eight a day -4, and it's going to tell you exactly when. If you're in a league that's not random, it'll tell you exactly when that player will sign.
Yeah.
If you put in bids, it's going to have
Or
it
if he's
listed on
recently
there.
dropped, if he's coming at noon that day or noon the next
Yep,
day.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. So you'll be
Yep.
able to figure it out right from the player, and you won't have to just be calculating it yourself. So that'll be nice.
Yep. That's great.
So yeah, I mean, I was asking you a week or two ago about what the perfect settings were if you were starting a league, and I'm excited to play this stuff out. I know I've already given away some of my preferences, but I don't know about the other ones. Um, I know that I know even from just a little bit of testing and playing with them in the leagues, like it's good stuff. I mean, there's been blocks that we've had there that are just common sense to get rid of, that were just some of
Yeah.
the logic of the game and validating things again, validating things at the start was the way it used to be, and we've figured out that we don't need to do that anymore.
Yep. Less restrictive, more choice.
Yep. So
Yeah. It's
it's
good.
exciting. I hope that people will have the conversations in their leagues. That's the big one.
Yep.
And try this stuff out, which we've had good success with a lot of options like that.
Oh, I one last question before I let you go. With all these changes, what defaults will it change for existing leagues of, if anything?
Existing leagues, we won't change the existing. Well, sorry, the timing and the other things. The timing will still be random for existing leagues, and there will not be unrestricted free agents for
So
existing leagues.
they'll have to
You got to
toggle
turn
that
those.
on.
You got to turn those on. The other things are happening for everybody. The being able to have multiple bids out there and being able to bid more, have the sum of your bids be greater than your salary cap. That's all leagues. That's happening immediately.
Yep. Okay.
New leagues, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
People, the default for new leagues, people don't even know anymore. But it's different than what you're used to. But anyway,
But it doesn't matter because when you start a new league,
doesn't
you
matter.
can make all those choices for
Exactly.
yourself.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, I think we can leave it there. If you have any questions, Clone's personal cell phone number is 619 no, I'm just kidding. I'm not even sure what actually that's San Diego's. Yeah, that's not your number.
Put a comment
But
next to this video in YouTube. Put a comment in the blog. Hit us on Discord. Send us an email. You can
or
send.
check the patch notes, check the blog post and check the help
Yep.
pages because there's going to be stuff up on all of them.
It's everywhere.
The
It's
blog
everywhere.
post is probably going to be the most in depth, right?
Yep.
Yep. So the blog post, which I believe is 13 pages long, are headed there now. But that will answer all your questions.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. That's this half week in BaseHit. See you on Monday.